Okay, so the other way that we can factor a degree 2 trinomial is to use what's called guessing and checking. I actually like to use the terminology reverse FOIL because that's literally what's happening. What we're basically doing is we're taking a guess here, and that guess involves the fact that usually to create a trinomial, we're multiplying a binomial to a binomial. So that's the first thing that I'm basically using to my advantage. 9 times out of 10, when I multiply a binomial to a binomial, we end up with another try. Okay, hopefully you guys have actually done that enough at this point where you're like, yeah, I can accept that. And then the other part of the guess is to create these binomials, right? What we have to do, if we were to multiply them, we would use the FOIL process. Well, to reverse the process, I'm going to use the fact that the F and the L are going to give us enough information to create a guess. And then the O and the I are going to create the ability to check my guess. Okay, so F and L is a guess, O and I is a check. And since we are guessing, sometimes you might guess wrong, and mistakes are okay. That just means you try again. All right, so here's how this method would look as opposed to the AC method. So if I'm looking at this, by the way, all these trinomials are the same ones we just did using the AC. I'm just redoing them using a guess and check technique. So as a guesser and a checker, I'm thinking the following thing, right? So I know there's a binomial times a binomial, and the F and the L are going to give me a guess. So the first term here, right, here's the F and here's the L. The first term is x squared. So what times what gives me x squared? Well, that has to be x times x. Right? That's about the only way we can do that. And then the next thing I'm going to worry about is the negative 8. So what times what gives me a negative 8? Right? Lots of combinations. Let me just go ahead and say, well, what about plus 1 and negative 8? Right? That's a combination that works. Okay? And so right now, though, we have to see if I'm right. So the outer and the inner right now is going to help us check this. I already guaranteed first times first is first, and last times last is last. So F and L are guaranteed. But what about the O and the I? Well, in this case, when I do the O, I get a negative 8x. When I do the inner, I get a positive x. And this gives me a combined total of negative 7x. And so what this means is I don't have the right answer. My guess didn't check out. And this is probably one reason why students hate this, right? We hate to be wrong. But in math, it's okay. You just try again. So what's another guess? Well, I don't think you can really mess around with the x, but maybe the negative 8, right? What two other things multiply to negative 8? Well, what about negative 2 and plus 4? So again, the first times the first is the first, and the last times the last is the last. So I'm guaranteed F and L. But what about the O and the I? Well, in this case, the outer is 4x, the inner is negative 2x, and that gives us a combined total of positive 2x, which is what I want. So there is our answer, right, as my pen runs out of ink, right? And so basically, that's the same answer that we got using the AC method earlier. But here it took me 2 guesses to finally get to the right combo. And so again, you can kind of see why some students hate it. They don't like having to go through all these different trials and all this guessing. They just want a step-by-step process, and that's fine. But what's really cool about this, if you can guess right at the very beginning, right, in one guess, you're done. And so a lot of students, like when you go down to the tutoring center or when you're looking online, you'll see a lot of people using the guess and check technique because they're pretty proficient with numbers, they're comfortable with them and combinations, so they're pretty quick at it. And so perhaps you use the AC method for a while, get familiar with numbers, and then you'll be sold on the guessing and checking method. They both work. So let's do it again. So guessing and checking, right? So I'm in charge of F and L, right? There's my guess. O and the I is to check. So my 2 binomials. So here's my first term and there's my last. What multiplies up to x squared? Well, again, it has to be x and x. What multiplies up to 10? Well, the first thing that comes off of my mind is 5 and 2. Right? And so again, my guess is good. First times first is first, last times last is last. Does it check out? Is this the right guess? Well, when I do my outer, I get a 2x. When I do my inner, I get a 5x, and that combines up to a 7x, which is exactly what I have. So what does that tell me? There's my right answer. And again, if you go back to the last video or your notes you took, that is the same product we got when we did the AC method. a heck of a lot less work though, because I was able to create it in the first guess. All right, so we got lucky there. All right, number 3, a little more going on. We got more things happening, but the idea remains the same, right? Here's my F, here's my L. That creates my guess, right? So what times what is going to create that? So first, 4x, right, squared. What two things multiply to 4x squared? Well, maybe that's a 2x and a 2x, right? Maybe that works. What about my last term, 5 and 1? Well, maybe it's a plus 5 and a minus 1, right? So perhaps that's, oops, and a plus 1, I'm sorry. Maybe it's that one, right? So first times first is first, last times last is last. So my guess is a good one. So does this check out, right? Where's my outer and my inner? Well, my outer in this case is 2x. My inner is 10x. And what we actually get is a 12x. And unfortunately, we're not looking for a positive 12x. We're looking for a negative 12x. So that tells me my guess is wrong. However, we're really close. All I need to do is, rather than saying another way to get plus 5, is to say minus 5 and minus 1. Right? So first times first is first. Last times last is last. So my F and L are taken care of. My outer is a negative 2x. My inner is a negative 10x, giving us negative 12x. So again, it took me a couple of guesses, but there is the correct guess and check. And again, if you go back to the AC method, that's the same answer we got using that method. So this, again, just another way to do the same thing. Lot less work if you can guess right the first time, or maybe some people don't mind guessing. Last but not least, right, again, here's my F, here's my L, right? So we're in charge of F and L. So my binomial, what times what gives me 2x squared? Well, not much we can do there, but 2x and x. What times what gives me negative 5? Well, you know, maybe minus 5 and plus 1, maybe that'll do the trick. So let's see if we're lucky, right? So we have the F and L squared away, right? First times first is first, last times last is last. So what about my outer and inner? Well, my outer is a positive 2x, my inner is a negative 5x, and what I get is a negative 3x, which is what I got in the middle. So that tells me that guess was right. Okay, so you have two ways to factor a trinomial of degree 2. Some of you will swear by the AC method, right? So that was this. All right, a little bit more work, but there's a step-by-step process to follow. And then some of you will swear by the guessing and checking, the reverse FOIL. A little bit less work, but yeah, sometimes we're wrong and we just have to deal with that. And that can be disconcerting to some students. So pick a method you like and then use that method, especially since we're in the summer and things are really fast. Find a method you're comfortable with and go for it. All right. Next video, what I'll do is we'll do more practice where we'll just kind of walk back and forth between the two. That way you're comfortable with the idea that you got two ways to do the same thing. See you guys in that next vid.